quiet, you can see your reflection clearly. But when the water is disturbed, your own face becomes distorted. In the same way, when people test you, they are not truly seeking to break you. They are seeking to see who you really are when the surface of life is not calm. When silence enters a space, most people feel uncomfortable. They rush to fill it with words, with noise, with anything that removes the stillness. Yet silence itself is the first great teacher. The way a person holds themselves in silence reveals much more than the words they speak. A man who is drawn to a woman of high value will sometimes allow silence to exist between them, not as a game, not as cruelty, but as a way of seeing if she knows her own depth when nothing is said. For it is in those pauses that the truth of a person's spirit rises to the surface. If your heart becomes restless, if you feel the need to grab attention or to demand reassurance whenever silence comes, it shows that your value is not rooted in yourself but in external affirmation. Just as in meditation, when the monk sits alone and the world grows quiet, the beginner panics, his mind races, he feels emptiness as if he is vanishing. But the experienced practitioner knows silence is not emptiness, silence is fullness. It is the space where true awareness awakens. A woman of high value holds silence with grace. She does not break it with nervous chatter. She allows it to breathe like air between two people. When a man notices this, he sees not insecurity, but presence. He sees that her self-worth does not collapse when no attention is given. This is the first test, though most will not name it a test at all. It happens naturally. It is not about waiting days for a reply or playing strategies. It is about the moment in conversation when words fall away and stillness lingers. Consider a simple example. Two people are sitting at a table after a meal. The food is finished. The conversation has paused. One person feels anxious and begins to talk about random things, anything to fill the void. The other person breathes, rests their hands on the table, gazes softly out the window, and allows silence to be part of the experience. Which one feels more rooted, more peaceful, more magnetic? The one who trusts the silence. In life, men will notice how you handle such moments. If silence makes you rush, plead, or demand, it shows a restless mind. But if silence makes you softer, calmer, and more grounded, it reveals inner power. This does not mean you should remain silent always. It means you should not fear silence. Silence should be a companion, not an enemy. You may ask yourself when the phone is quiet, when no message comes, when a pause stretches longer than I expected. What do I feel? Do I lose balance or do I remain in peace? A woman of high value cultivates peace in such spaces. She uses the pause to breathe, to return to herself, to remember her worth is not tied to external noise. This is the training. Just as a monk does not wait for constant instruction, but learns to sit with his own breath, so too must you learn to sit with yourself. From this first test flows the second. For silence itself is linked to consistency. Words can charm, gestures can impress, but what sustains connection is not the height of one's excitement, but the depth of one's steadiness. A man who is truly discerning will not be swayed only by moments of beauty or bursts of enthusiasm. He will look for consistency, the quality of being the same when circumstances change. Imagine a student who enters the training hall for the first time. On that day, his energy is bright, his enthusiasm strong, his voice full of promises. He says he will train every day. He says he will never quit. He shows all his passion. Yet after a week, the rain comes, the body aches, the discipline feels heavy, and he disappears. Another student arrives quietly. He does not speak much. He does not display extraordinary talent. But every morning, rain or shine, he arrives. His movements are not perfect, but his presence is consistent. Over time, who becomes the true practitioner? Not the one who glowed for a moment, but the one who walked with steadiness. Men notice the same in women. Charm may capture attention, but it is consistency that earns respect. In the beginning, anyone can be sweet, patient, and joyful. But what about when the day is tiring, when stress comes, when life feels ordinary? The true test is whether her character remains centered. Consider this: a couple goes out to eat. On the first dates, everything is smooth, laughter flows, politeness is abundant. But months later, when the service is slow, when the food is cold, when traffic was heavy before arriving, does her demeanor collapse into irritation? Does she snap, complain, or blame? Or does she carry the same calmness as before, steady and grounded? This is what consistency means. For a man who values depth, this is not about perfection. It is not about always being cheerful. It is about not being controlled by passing moods. It is about emotional discipline. A woman of high value does not allow the winds of circumstance to toss her character around like a fragile leaf. She holds her center like a rooted tree. Even when the winds of stress blow, her branches may sway, but her roots remain firm. You may reflect on yourself here. How often does your mood depend entirely on external events? Do you greet the world differently when things go smoothly than when things feel heavy? Or do you cultivate steadiness that is independent of the outer weather? This is the discipline. To be consistent in character, not only when it is easy, but especially when it is difficult. Now, the third test a man may bring is the weight of patience. In our world today, people are trained to expect quick responses, fast answers, immediate satisfaction. Yet in love, in growth, in trust, patience is essential. Men test to see if a woman can wait without forcing, without rushing, without demanding constant progress. This does not mean he is playing games. It means he wants to see if she has mastered the flow of energy. Water teaches us this lesson. If you try to push water faster than its natural current, you only stir up mud and create turbulence. But when you let the river flow, it nourishes everything along its path. Patience is this flow, to allow things to grow in their own time. A man may slow down the pace of the relationship, not as avoidance, but as observation. He wants to see, can she trust the unfolding, or will she grow anxious, press for answers, and choke the growth with urgency? This test is not spoken aloud, but it is deeply felt. Because if a woman cannot be patient, if she demands results at every stage, the natural harmony breaks. A high-value woman understands seasons. She knows that a seed does not bloom in a single day. She honors the rhythm of time. Think of a garden. When you plant a seed, you do not dig it up the next morning to check if it has sprouted. You water it. You let the sun reach it. You trust the unseen work happening beneath the soil. In relationships, patience is the same. If you constantly dig up the soil to check for results, you destroy the seed. But if you nourish and trust, growth comes naturally. A man will notice this in subtle ways. If he is slow to reply, does she grow restless and angry? If he takes time before introducing her to his family, does she accuse and press? Or does she breathe, trust, and allow the rhythm to unfold? This patience is not passive. It is active trust. It is energy directed inward instead of wasted outward. Ask yourself, how do I hold time? Do I treat it as an enemy, always demanding faster results? Or do I treat it as a teacher, guiding me in rhythm and discipline? The woman who treats time as a teacher becomes magnetic. She does not rush, she does not beg, she does not force. She knows that what is meant for her cannot be stolen, and what is not meant for her cannot be kept by force. So these first three tests, silence, consistency, and patience, are not games. They are reflections of deeper truths. They show whether a woman is rooted in herself or dependent on external noise. They show whether her character is steady or fragile. They show whether her trust is aligned with the flow of life or bound to fear. A high-value woman embraces silence as a friend. She practices consistency as discipline, and she carries patience as strength. These qualities are not only attractive to men, but they are essential for her own well-being. For when she learns to rest in silence, to remain consistent, and to trust time, she does not only pass his tests, she passes the tests of life itself. Boundaries are not prisons. They are not walls meant to keep love out. They are the invisible lines that preserve, respect, and allow genuine closeness to exist without being consumed. In the East, we say, the bamboo bends with the wind, but does not break. Boundaries are this flexibility, not rigid barriers, but structures that protect the integrity of the plant. In relationships, a man will often test to see if a woman knows how to hold her boundaries. Not through cruelty, not always intentionally, but because respect cannot be given if a person cannot first respect themselves. Many people confuse kindness with the absence of boundaries. They think saying yes to everything, sacrificing every need, and always adjusting is the way to prove love. But this is not love. This is fear disguised as love. A man who truly values depth does not look for a woman who bends until she disappears. He looks for a woman who can say no with clarity, who can stand firm in her principles without anger, who can express her limits without shaming. When he sees that she knows how to protect her dignity, he feels her strength. Imagine a student in training. The master asks him to push against a wooden post. The post does not attack the student. It does not scream. It simply stands firm. In this firmness, the student learns balance. If the post collapsed under every push, the student would learn nothing. A high-value woman is like this post. She is not aggressive, but she is steady. A man may test her by gently asking her to compromise something that matters. Perhaps her values, perhaps her self-respect, perhaps her time. If she gives in to everything quickly just to please him, he learns she cannot be trusted to hold the foundation of a relationship. But if she calmly holds her boundary, without hostility, without arrogance, he feels secure. For he knows that if she protects herself, she will also protect the relationship. This does not mean saying no to everything. Balance is key. Just as a river has banks that guide the water, but still allow it to flow, boundaries guide love without blocking it. The woman who holds them clearly creates harmony. The man may test with small requests. Will she cancel her important commitments just because he asks? Will she stay silent when something hurts her? Or will she speak her truth gently, showing him the shape of her character? The high-value woman does not lose herself in pleasing. She knows that respect is born from clarity. Ask yourself now, do I confuse saying yes with being loving? Do I abandon myself just to be accepted? If so, this is not strength but loss. The first task is to respect your own inner space. When you do, others cannot help but respect it too. From boundaries, we move into another test, subtle yet powerful, the art of listening. In our world today, noise has become normal. People speak, but few truly listen. Most listen only to prepare their reply, to defend themselves, or to impress the other. Rarely do they listen to understand. But listening is one of the purest forms of love. When a man is drawn to a woman, he will often test whether she truly listens to him. Not only when he speaks about grand things, but especially when he shares the small, ordinary details of his life. In martial arts sparring, victory is not won by attacking blindly. It is won by listening with the body, by sensing the opponent's weight, by feeling his rhythm, by perceiving the movement before it happens. The body listens even more than the ears. In relationships, the same is true. To listen is to open yourself to the other's inner world. A man may share something small, perhaps about his day, perhaps about his childhood, perhaps about something he loves. Later, he may test to see if she remembers, if she valued it, if she carried his words in her heart. If she forgets, it is not the forgetting of facts that hurts, it is the forgetting of presence. It shows she was not truly there. But when she remembers, even the smallest thing, it reveals she listened not with ears, but with her whole being. Listening requires emptiness. The teacup that is already full cannot receive more tea. In the same way, if your mind is already full of your own opinions, judgments, and replies, you cannot truly hear. High value women practice emptying themselves when another speaks. They breathe, they soften their eyes, they allow silence between words. They absorb not just the content, but the feeling. When a man notices this, he feels safe, for he knows he can open himself without being dismissed. Ask yourself, when people speak to me, do I hear their words or only the echo of my own thoughts? Do I listen only to reply, or do I listen to feel? Begin practicing this in daily life. When a friend speaks, resist the urge to interrupt. Allow a pause. Feel their breath, their tone, their body language. This is listening. It is a gift more valuable than wealth. And then comes a third test, often unnoticed because it happens in small ways. Truth in promises. Integrity is not measured in grand declarations. It is measured in the little things we say we will do. In the temple, if a student says he will sweep the courtyard and he forgets, it reveals more than if he fails at some complicated form, because the small promise shows the strength of his word. If the word is weak in little things, how can it be strong in great ones? A man who values character will test whether a woman's words can be trusted. Not in dramatic ways, but in ordinary moments. If she says she will call, does she call? If she says she will be somewhere at a certain time, is she there? If she says she will keep something private, does she honor it? These details may seem small, but they are the foundation of trust. A woman who speaks lightly, who promises quickly, but forgets easily, shows she cannot be relied upon. But a woman who keeps even the smallest promise shows strength. Her words become as solid as stone. Consider a simple example. You tell someone you will send them a message later that evening. If you forget, you may think it is trivial. But for the other, it reveals something, that your words are not anchored. A man who notices this may not speak it aloud, but he registers it deeply. Because in the future, when bigger matters arise, he will remember. Integrity in the small is the seed of integrity in the large. This does not mean you must promise everything. In fact, it means the opposite. Be careful with your words. Make fewer promises, but let each one be certain. Speak like the rising sun, steady, predictable, reliable. When a man sees that your word is consistent, he feels security. He knows that he can trust you not just with tasks, but with his heart. Ask yourself, do I speak more than I can fulfill? Do I say yes when I mean maybe? Or do I commit only to what I can hold? Practice speaking less, but fulfilling more. Let people discover that your words are treasures, not leaves blown away by the wind. When you weave these three qualities together, boundaries, listening, and truth in promises, you create a foundation of immense strength. Boundaries show that you respect yourself and will not dissolve into another's will. Listening shows that you respect the other and honor their presence. Integrity in promises shows that your words can be trusted. Together, they form the triangle of respect. A man who encounters such a woman will feel something rare. He will feel safe. He will feel he can rest because she is not trying to please him blindly. She is not dismissing his voice, and she is not speaking empty words. She is rooted, attentive, and trustworthy. These are not tests you prepare for with strategies. They are not tricks to learn. They are disciplines to embody. They are ways of being. A high-value woman does not pass them by trying to impress. She passes them by becoming the kind of person who naturally holds boundaries, who naturally listens with depth, and who naturally keeps her word. When this becomes her essence, every test is already answered, so reflect deeply. Do you honor your limits and speak them with calmness? Do you listen with your whole being, not only your ears? Do you let your promises be rare and sacred, kept like vows? If so, you need not worry about tests. For every man who encounters you will already know, here stands a woman whose spirit is steady, whose attention is sacred, whose word is pure. And when such a woman meets a man of equal value, their connection does not rest on performance. It rests on truth. It flows without fear. It grows without force. It endures without games. This is the way of harmony. When you observe people in different circumstances, you will realize that their reactions carry far more weight than their rehearsed words. A person can speak of kindness, they can speak of love, they can even declare loyalty, but it is the way they react in the moments they did not prepare for that will reveal the true content of their character. When they are startled, when they are disappointed, when life does not move according to their expectations, the mask slips. This is why the wise never look only at what is said, but at the reactions that spring out of the hidden corners of the heart. Reactions reveal inner power, or they reveal inner weakness. They show you whether someone has cultivated self-mastery, or whether they are ruled by every passing emotion like a leaf carried away by the wind. Imagine standing in a storm. One person panics, cries, and collapses, while another person, with the same storm raging around them, breathes deeply, stays calm, and takes deliberate steps forward. The storm is the same, but the reactions are different. That difference is not about luck. It is about the work one has done on their inner world. The one who has practiced breathing through difficulty, who has trained their emotions instead of being enslaved by them, will not be shaken by the storm. Their reaction reflects the strength of their foundation. So if you want to know who someone truly is, observe not their plans, but their patterns when pressure comes. Watch how they respond when frustration arrives, when a door closes, when anger from another person confronts them. The way they hold themselves in those moments is a mirror of the discipline they have cultivated within. But it is not only about observing others, it is also about observing yourself. Every time you react harshly, defensively, or without awareness, life is showing you where your training is still incomplete. Instead of excusing your reactions as just how I am, you must see them as signals. They are feedback from life, pointing out the areas where you still give away your power. Because when you react unconsciously, you hand over your control to the external world. You become a puppet whose strings are pulled by whatever situation you are placed in. But when you master your reactions, you move from being a puppet to being the puppeteer. You hold the strings of your life. Consider a workplace scenario. A colleague criticizes your work unfairly. The immediate, untrained reaction may be defensiveness, anger, or even shame. But a trained mind takes a breath, pauses, and chooses. Instead of reacting, it responds. Perhaps it answers calmly, "Thank you for your perspective. I will review this." Or it asks a clarifying question to bring more light to the situation. That calmness is not weakness. It is strength disguised as gentleness. It takes far more power to hold back a reactive outburst than it does to unleash one. In fact, real strength is invisible to many because it manifests as stillness in moments where others would explode. Reactions are also tied to energy conservation. Think of how much energy is wasted in unnecessary arguments, in heated exchanges that go nowhere, in holding grudges that never heal. Every reactive moment drains you like a leaking vessel. This is why people who live in constant reaction often feel tired, emotionally exhausted, and even physically depleted. But the one who has mastered their reactions carries their energy with care. They decide when to engage, when to remain silent, and when to withdraw. Such a person is like a warrior who does not unsheathe their sword at every small provocation, but keeps it sharp for the battles that truly matter. That is wisdom. Now, closely connected to this is the way you hold anger. Anger itself is not evil. It is energy, fire, a force of intensity. But like fire, it can either cook your food or burn down your house. Anger held carelessly will destroy your health, your relationships, and your peace. But anger held wisely can be transformed into clarity, into boundaries, into action. Think of anger as a messenger. It comes to tell you, something here is not right, pay attention. But the mistake is when people confuse the messenger with the message. Instead of listening to what anger is pointing toward, they let the anger itself drive their behavior. And then words are spoken that cannot be taken back, actions are done that create regret, and wounds are opened that take years to heal. If you want to see someone's true strength, observe how they hold anger. Do they let it pour out instantly, like water spilling from a cracked vessel, damaging everything in its path? Or do they hold it with awareness, breathe with it, and allow the energy to be channeled into something constructive? There is a saying, any fool can be angry. The test is to be angry at the right person, in the right measure, at the right time. That is mastery. It is not about eliminating anger, but about transforming it. Think about martial artists who train for years. They learn not only techniques of combat, but also how to harness aggression. Their training is not to suppress anger, but to refine it into focus. In the same way, life asks you to refine your emotions into clarity. When anger arises, instead of letting it explode outward, breathe with it, observe it, and ask, what is this energy pointing me toward? What lesson is it teaching me? Where do I need to act with courage? And where do I need to let go? By holding anger instead of releasing it recklessly, you turn fire into light. Relationships especially reveal the truth of reactions and anger. Many connections collapse not because of major betrayals, but because of accumulated moments of uncontrolled reaction. A sharp word here, a defensive reply there, repeated again and again until the bond is weakened. But couples or friends who learn to pause, who learn to listen, who learn to express anger with respect rather than attack, build resilience. They understand that the reaction can either become a knife that cuts or a bridge that connects. The difference lies in awareness. Self-mastery, therefore, is not about suppressing emotions. It is about choosing responses consciously. Some people believe that if they suppress their anger, they are strong. But suppression is only hiding. The fire still burns inside, slowly consuming from within. Mastery is different. Mastery is facing the fire, holding it, breathing with it, and then deciding how to release it in a way that creates life rather than destruction. This is why the wise often appear calm. Even when storms rage inside them, their calmness is not the absence of inner waves, it is the skill of surfing them. So, when you want to see someone's true nature, pay attention not to the way they plan their words, but to the way they stumble into their reactions. Do they lash out when misunderstood? Do they crumble when criticized? Or do they pause, breathe, and choose to act with dignity? And when you look at yourself, ask the same. Because every reactive moment is a test, and every held moment is a step towards self-mastery. In the end, your reactions and your way of holding anger are not simply responses to life. They are the essence of your inner training revealed. They are the mirror that shows whether you are living as a master of yourself or a servant of your emotions. There comes a time in every journey of growth where the heart feels tested not by obvious enemies, but by subtle challenges that creep in quietly, often dressed in familiarity, routine, or even comfort. This is where many fall, not because they lacked strength, but because they underestimated the silent trials. In the unfolding of destiny, the 9th and 10th keynotes remind us of this truth, that the tests which come without warning often shape us the most, and that our response to these hidden trials defines whether we rise higher or remain trapped in cycles we thought we had already escaped. The 9th keynote whispers of endurance, not as the loud roar of one who charges through storms, but as the quiet persistence of someone who refuses to let life wear them down. Many think strength is proven in grand gestures, in moments where everyone can see how brave you are. But life rarely announces when it will challenge you. Sometimes the test comes in the form of waiting for clarity, waiting for the fruit of seeds you planted long ago, waiting for change that feels like it may never come. And in this waiting, endurance is not just about surviving, but about holding on to hope without letting bitterness corrode the soul. Endurance is saying, I may not see the end of this tunnel yet, but I know there is light, so I will keep walking. Consider the farmer who plants in spring. He does not run outside every morning to dig up the soil, demanding to see growth immediately. He trusts the unseen process beneath the surface, and his endurance is proven not by impatience, but by his faithfulness to water, to protect, and to keep believing in what is happening underground. The same applies to your life. The struggles you are facing, the prayers you have sent out, the effort you have invested. Just because the harvest hasn't yet appeared doesn't mean growth isn't happening. Endurance is the invisible muscle of the spirit, exercised every day you choose not to quit even when no one is watching. But endurance is more than waiting. It is also resisting. It is resisting the temptation to lower your standards when the world tells you to settle. It is resisting the pull to go back to old ways because the new path feels too lonely or too uncertain. It is resisting the urge to numb yourself with distractions when the discomfort of growth becomes overwhelming. That resistance is endurance in disguise. People often misinterpret it as stubbornness, but in truth, it is a sacred devotion to the path you know your soul is meant to walk. The danger, however, is that endurance without understanding can lead to unnecessary suffering. There is a difference between enduring what strengthens you and enduring what slowly destroys you. Many endure toxic relationships, abusive environments, or degrading cycles under the illusion that perseverance itself is noble. But endurance is not martyrdom. True endurance aligns with purpose. It is not about staying where you are mistreated. It is about enduring the process that purifies you, the challenges that stretch you, the pain that transforms you into a vessel capable of carrying the greatness you are destined for. This leads us into the 10th keynote, discernment. Discernment is the wisdom that guides endurance, the inner compass that whispers, this trial is shaping you, but that chain is breaking you. Without discernment, endurance becomes blind suffering. With discernment, endurance becomes meaningful growth. The two dance together. One provides the strength to keep walking. The other provides the clarity of direction. Discernment is perhaps one of the most undervalued gifts of the Spirit, because it does not shout loudly, it whispers. It asks you to be still enough to recognize the difference between intuition and impulse, between alignment and distraction, between what looks good and what is truly good. Discernment is not about overthinking every decision, but about cultivating an inner stillness that allows truth to rise naturally to the surface. When you are clouded by noise, by the opinions of others, by the constant pull of comparison, by the hunger for validation, you cannot discern. But when you learn to quiet your soul, even for a moment, clarity comes like sunlight breaking through the fog. The challenge is that life rarely presents us with obvious choices of black and white. More often, the choices come cloaked in shades of gray. Two opportunities may look equally good. Two relationships may offer different forms of love. Two paths may both appear promising. Discernment helps you see not just what glitters, but what endures. It shows you not just what satisfies the moment, but what serves your highest purpose. Many fall into traps not because they are weak, but because they lack discernment. They mistook attention for love, opportunity for destiny, pleasure for fulfillment. Without discernment, even endurance becomes wasted energy on the wrong pursuits. To cultivate discernment, one must learn to listen deeply not only to words, but to energy, to silence, to the unspoken. Sometimes people reveal more in what they do not say than in what they say. Sometimes life reveals more in the doors it closes than in the ones it opens. Discernment is paying attention to patterns, to consistency, to what repeats itself, because truth always reveals itself in repetition. If someone shows you a lack of respect once, you may excuse it as a mistake. But when it becomes a pattern, discernment tells you it is not an accident, it is their nature. If an opportunity drains your spirit every time you pursue it, discernment tells you it is not aligned with your calling. When endurance and discernment merge, you become unshakable. You endure because you know where you are going, and you discern so that you do not waste your endurance on paths that lead nowhere. Together, they create resilience with wisdom, strength with direction. Imagine a warrior in battle. Endurance is the shield that allows them to withstand blows without collapsing, and discernment is the sword that allows them to strike where it matters, rather than flailing aimlessly. Without one, the other is incomplete. Think about the times in your life where you endured something that at the time felt unbearable, but looking back, you now see how it prepared you for something greater. That was endurance guided by discernment, even if you did not recognize it then. And think about the times where you wasted years in a situation that drained your spirit because you believed endurance was enough, but there was no alignment. That was endurance without discernment. These contrasts are not failures, they are teachers. They show you the value of balance, of marrying patience with wisdom. The beauty of discernment is that it grows stronger with use. Just as a muscle is strengthened by consistent exercise, your ability to discern truth sharpens the more you practice listening, reflecting, and trusting. Every decision, every interaction,